We are live.
We are live.
Well, we got a lot to talk about today, so we might as well jump right into it. Today, we're joined by Keshav Ummat. Did I get that right? I'm going to cut
K-
this off just to make sure.
Keshav Ummat, correct.
Yeah, all right, there you go. Head of growth at Intently AI, one of the most exciting tools helping startups master their go-to-market strategy. Intently AI helps founders and growth teams find high-intent leads in real time by listening to conversations happening every day across LinkedIn, Reddit, and X. So instead of cold outreach and guesswork, Intently services people are actually talking about the problems your business solves. So you can connect at exactly the right moments. So you're leading the growth team and the customer success at Intently, helping startups turn social listening into a real pipeline. And I say startups because that's kind of where I'm coming from, but I imagine you help all sorts of businesses. Um, you're
Correct.
going to show us how it works today. I've got a bunch of questions, and let's get into it.
Let's get into it. Yeah, thanks for the platform, Craig. I'm just gonna pop up my screen share here, do a live demo, and then we'll go through some Q&A. I'm super excited though. So let me pull up my window. You got my screen share?
Yeah, there it is.
Okay, perfect. So this is the homepage at Intently. This is what it looks like if you have like a bunch of different projects set up. These are people that I've demoed for a ton of different demos that are kind of going on, but we're going to create one from scratch, new project specifically for Toronto Starts. So if you were to come to Intently, this is kind of the onboarding flow that you would go through. We try to make it really quick, simple. First step, inputting your website. We'll do a simple scrape so that you can get details, we can get details on what your business does, as well as who your ideal customer profile would be. So the analysis from Toronto Starts shows, hey, it's an entrepreneur startup community based in Toronto, founded in 2015. And the ideal customer is an early stage entrepreneur or startup founder located in the Toronto area or Ontario who's seeking guidance, mentorship, and access to a vibrant ecosystem. So this context is editable. If your website pull wasn't quite the best and you want to add some more context, always helps in terms of training Intently to be optimized for your use case. Um, from this screen, you tell us a little bit more about like how you're looking to use Intently. This doesn't change too much in terms of like search results or lead results, but it does help us in terms of, again, optimizing the platform for you. If you want direct sales or you're just kind of trying to get your brand out there, monitor it or market it more effectively. That tells us how you're using the platform. Then step 4, which is the last step in setup, is really the bread and butter of Intently. The way we're different from a lot of other signal companies out there is we search much more holistic signals based on posts in their entirety instead of like just a keyword or just a job role change. And based on the description of your business context you gave us, we're going to brainstorm a list of signals that we think would be really valuable for you. You can choose to use these or set up one from scratch, but we think for Toronto Starts, as an example, if we find people on Reddit, X, or LinkedIn who are early stage entrepreneurs or startup founders that are publicly seeking mentorship, guidance, or coaching in the Toronto, Ontario region, that's probably a really good indicator for Toronto Starts that they should connect with this founder. So you can click on set up this signal, see the description, examples of what types of posts Intently is going to look for, and then some rules. You can specify geography, excluding like promotional posts from other people who might be offering a similar service and talking about the same thing. You can add keywords if you want to, although this is optional and, like I said, not the principal focus of our platform, but it is a feature. If you wanted to search for like somebody who just raised, announcing funding, for example. And then from there, if you feel good about the description, you feel good about the signal and the platforms you're searching against, you click continue and you specify a credit budget. Now, the credits are, because running the search costs us money as a company. This is what we charge credits for to our users. So we tell users start low on a credit budget. Starting low allows you to still get results for the signal, but then kind of test to see what those results look like, who these people are, who the leads are, what type of posts and content is being surfaced by Intently. And once you know a signal works really well, you're getting the right leads, the right people, you can then increase the credit budget and we'll search against a lot more content using that same signal for you. But this way, if you start low on the credit budget, you're not going to burn through credits really fast unnecessarily. So we'll save that signal. And actually, just for the purposes of this demo, let's set up two. I like this other one about Toronto startup launch announcements. So individuals or teams announcing a new startup or service or product in Toronto. This, again, could be a great value add for Toronto Starts in terms of reaching out to them, seeing if they're open to partnership, connecting, and joining the community. So we've just set up two signals. We'll click save, and then that's it. In terms of the setup, you can click run, and that's how you get started on Intently. Now, there's a lot more features once your signals start to populate. This will take a minute or so, but once your leads start to populate, you can then go into project settings and tweak a lot of different things. So one of the things that we use our own platform for in terms of lead gen and follow-ups is this notifications tab. So different leads that come in that match certain notifications either go to Slack and send us Slack notifications like, hey, this signal found a new lead, you should go message this person. Or we also offer webhook integrations, which we use pretty comprehensively across our platform. You can search, you can connect a webhook based on specific signals. So if somebody comes in that matches the Toronto startup launch announcements, you can then integrate this webhook with a tool like Clay or your email campaign or email marketing product or software, and
Or
a
a tool
series
like
of
N8N.
actions. Or a tool like N8N. Exactly. And a series of actions will then happen that you've pre-specified. For us, the main flow that we use is if a lead comes in that matches certain signals, they go directly into Clay for enrichment, and we get their emails confirmed from Clay. And then from Clay, if the email is found, they get auto-uploaded into our email marketing service, which we use Instantly for. And then each different signal, we've created a specific sequence for. And so now we have automated outbound basically based on real intent signals. And every day I get 2, 3, sometimes 5 demos booked just from this process. And I don't have to do any active sending anymore. So it's a really, really compelling tool. We've designed it to be effective in the long run and basically less time intensive as you use it. We kind of want this after a couple months of using Intently. We want this to be running in the background for you, constantly helping you get new business, but without requiring that much effort. So let's go ahead and refresh our search and see if any leads have started to populate. Okay, we've got a couple posts that are coming up from people specifically in the Toronto area. The search is still running, so there should be more that start to populate. But I will make a note that unlike other lead gen tools, you may not get the same volume that you get in Intently because, again, we're doing like very, very compelling and high intent type of leads. You can search against more general signals about startups globally or founders talking about a specific industry, and you can also get engagement signals like who liked or commented on this post if you want to get more lead volume. But if you want to stay very, very targeted, Intently can also kind of do that out of the box. So let's see an example. The first signal that matched was around Toronto startup launch announcements. Rohan is posting. He posted on October 7th, so earlier this month. Excited to share something that I've been building. Blueprint. Blueprint is an AI-powered platform that helps founders validate and refine their startup ideas, and he's a mechanical engineering student at the University of Toronto. So Craig, you might want to go ping Rohan and get him into Toronto Starts because it looks like he's onto something pretty compelling.
Absolutely. This looks amazing. I mean, it was only a couple of minutes and you've got these leads ready to go. And I'm amazed and shocked. And I don't know why more people aren't using these types of tools. Because again, that was only a couple of minutes. And
yeah, a couple more slowly trickling in here. So yeah, as you can see, here's another founder announcing the launch of a peer community in Toronto. So maybe a good idea for partnership. Get ahead of this one. This guy Dubon is offering a founder and CEO of peer. He's founder and CEO of peer community in Toronto. Here's another founder, Tenzin. who's talking to hardware founders and helping build one of the first open access maker spaces in the city. Ooh, I love maker spaces. So yeah, as you can see, we got very, very targeted directly to Toronto Starts ICP. We're only surfacing posts that match these signals, and it's all about founders building in the region. So if you're interested, would love to share you more about how we can help with your project.
Yeah, and I think people need to keep in mind finding founders and that are actively doing stuff isn't as easy as say finding someone who's looking to get a problem solved. Yeah, so when you're doing these sources for the type of stuff you're doing, that came back pretty fast for something that would generally take a long time to find.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely augments what would normally be a very manual research process. And there's a couple other features that we didn't show in the live stream, but around like helping you generate replies and content to these people is natively part of Intently. That's something that does take a little bit of time to optimize for. You want to add like your own writing rules, your own context, but it's definitely something that we work with our customers on, again, so they can get to that point where it just kind of runs on autopilot and you're just getting leads, interest, net new demos booked, or net new people to your community without having to do too much.
Yeah, so if you're watching and you want to leave us a question, just drop it in chat. We'll see it in StreamYard here, and we'll grab right to it. I have a bunch of questions because this is really impressive. Are we ready to jump into my questions, or are there a few more things you wanted to say?
We're ready. We can go into Q&A, and then if people have other questions and want to see more of the platform, happy to talk about it.
Yeah, and you may show the platform as a response to some of these questions. So feel free to do whatever makes sense to you.
Okay.
First of all, one of the things you should know is that I also run the business AI and automation group in Toronto called Flowgrammer. So this will be very interesting to that group as well as to the startup and business owner group. So my questions will come at angle from both of those sides.
Okay.
You've worked with a lot of businesses developing these kinds of tools and developing growth strategies and whatnot. Let me just get the question here. There we go. Yeah, it didn't appear very well here, but basically, what's your biggest go-to-market challenge right now? Like, why are you not flooded with business? Or maybe you are.
Well, I will say the demand, since we've deployed our own product Intently in production for us, is looking pretty good right now. We feel pretty good. We've got a lot of demos booked every week. But in general, I think that some of the biggest challenges in go-to-market that I see when I do demos with customers, one is I don't really see many customers that I talk to having a great system from signal to revenue. That gap is actually pretty steep, and it requires a decent amount of effort to set up initially. But then once you have the system in place, as long as it's built with this sort of recursive intelligence in mind, meaning that it can be trained to improve based on the results, you're going to be getting and experiencing compounding effects for your go-to-market system. So that flow, again, when somebody is out there in the ether on a social platform, like LinkedIn, like X, or others, there are tons of platforms out there, and they're expressing, hey, I'm looking for Toronto Starts. Maybe they don't say Toronto Starts, but they're looking for you. Do you have a good way to action that? Or when somebody visits your website, do you have a good way to follow up with them? Or when somebody maybe engages with your founder's post, all of these different hints that somebody might be actually looking for your product or service. Have you developed the right tools or the right workflows to make sure that they're not then getting sidetracked and their attention's taken to another project or another tool, and then they never come back to you? Like, do you have that system of capture? And once you action the initial signal, how do you get them to either book a demo with you or a meeting with you so that you can start to talk to them one-on-one and close them, or get them into your funnel so that they can start to engage with your natural content, your training videos, your webinars, and then close through a product-led growth motion. I think that's something that pretty much every company I talk to is trying to figure out, at least if they don't have it set up, one, how to set it up. And if they do have it set up, how to optimize this so I'm not managing this 24/7. I can get more hands off and focus on closing or running the business.
You're right about how hard it is to set up and how many people don't. It's funny how many early stage businesses I talk to who are actually afraid to make sales and stuff or to book meetings because they don't have the process built yet. And so it's so much work that they dread doing it. And all of a sudden their performance really suffers because they're on a phone with a client, but they don't want to make the sale because they don't want the administrative work. When if you just spent a few days and did the processes and built some automations and connected, you could have these things pretty well built in the back end to minimize your effort so that you could actually focus on selling the client.
Totally. It's definitely a worthwhile investment.
So what's the biggest go-to-market mistake you see early stage startups or any business at this stage making?
That's a really good question. I would have to say, and it's a little tough because every industry is different, every company is different. So take this with a grain of salt. But I think that some early stage companies try to go after the volume play a little too quickly. If you're really still early stage, you don't have a ton of like training content out there, guides for your users, use cases and studies that'll prove value to net new customers. You don't necessarily want to flood and overload your system with viewers because you want, right now at least, higher conversions. You'd rather have, I think, at least as an early stage startup, 200 customers that are really big advocates and close and become your long-standing clients versus 1,000 customers that come once and then churn, right? And so I think if you try to go too big too fast without having the right structure and systems in place, you might end up with a churn problem and a demand problem later that you won't anticipate. Now, again, that's not always the case. Like there's some cases where virality goes big and people have the systems in place and they scale and meet the demand. So I'm not saying don't go big, don't go for it. But if you can get that core group of users early that you've nurtured and you've targeted and who are looking for you and become really big fans, that is so powerful because then they'll become referral engines, they become affiliates, they'll want to engage in your community later, meet you in person, and they can help you with expansion down the road.
That's great. That was a lot of detail. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
How should a solo founder think about building their first pipeline with limited resources?
This is good. This is a good question. Solo founder, limited resources. I think two things. One that'll go a little bit against our tool. Before you get into the tools as a solo founder, I think you got to get out there. Our founder, I'm not the founder of Intently, but our founder, when he was a solo founder, was doing demos live, meeting in person, going to networking events, talking about what he's building before he ever started a social campaign. He was getting people bought into him. That was one of his greatest, value adds as for building pipeline, was just talk about his background, what he's building, what he's up to, get connected via referrals, get a little scrappy in terms of building that first set of pipeline. From there, that's why tools like Intently were built, because we noticed there's a huge gap in terms of like, once you've started building pipeline in person, you've kind of exhausted the referral network, your close community, but you're not quite at the stage where you're scaling like a massive enterprise like an Amazon. You need the tools to get and find high intent, and you don't want to follow up with thousands of people yet as a solo founder. That's why Intently was built. We can get you in front of the customers who are looking for you, who are wanting to buy from you, and it won't be overwhelming.
Well, that leads naturally into my next question. So you're out there hustling. When's the right time to invest in a structured go-to-market flow?
Hmm. This is a tough one. I think from an investment perspective, if you're thinking time, I think from day one you should start thinking about it. Like, okay, as I get to a little bit more steeper demand curve, you should be getting ahead of things like, okay, how can I create welcome email sequences? That's part of customer retention. Once somebody signs up, what happens? How can I create outbound email sequences, support channels? All of this stuff is related to go to market in terms of customer growth and retention. You should be thinking about that really, really early on, just so it's not catching you by surprise. But in terms of investing in time, or sorry, in money, in terms of go to market, like personnel and tools, I think once you start to get a steady stream of inbound demand and people are reaching out to you, that's when you know, like, there's demand for your product. You've got a really good thing going. You should capitalize on that demand and either hire somebody to lead up your growth strategy so they can make sure the conversions on inbound is really, really high and retention is really, really high, and you're scaling outbound motions as well, or tools that can help you automate that. And if you're very technical as a founder, it's not too challenging to build. Like, go to market is an engineering problem at the end of the day now. So if you're technical, you feel comfortable in these tools, I say try to build some automations yourself.
Yeah, and there's lots of great automation tools in there. I think your site mentions Zapier. We use N8N a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get into some of that questions around those in a bit. But use the tools that are there available. And if you're in the Toronto area and you want to know, join our builders group. Go over to flowgrammer.ca and come by. We do monthly events. They're drop in. It's pay what you can, and we're actively show demos. It's not pitches. It's not slides. It's here's working stuff we're working on that's building, and sharing that knowledge. So check those things out. They're great.
I love that.
How do you decide which social platforms, LinkedIn, Reddit, Twitter to focus, or X to focus on first? Or
good question. No, absolutely. Great question. Couple things there. Depends on two major factors, I would say. One is your own profile. Do you have a LinkedIn, X, Reddit, and do you have a decent amount of following or followers and community you want to engage with? That just removes friction if you're already on one of those platforms. Really, really easy to get started. The second piece is the general audience on those platforms. X, Reddit tend to skew a little bit more towards the developer community, although Reddit's kind of a catch-all. LinkedIn, definitely a little bit more oriented on the business community. So if you're selling B2B SaaS and you're selling something that your end user is a non-technical person, you might want to consider LinkedIn. Whereas if you're selling to the developer community, you probably want to consider X.
speaking of signals, what signals actually indicate buying intent versus noise?
Yeah, this one's an awesome one. I love this question. Thank you for that, Craig. I think that you'll find a lot of signal companies out there, as I kind of mentioned and alluded to at the beginning, they track things like a job change or a news announcement or a keyword. And we're not here saying that that's bad, because people have built businesses around this and it works with enough volume, right? But it isn't really the best intent. Like, the best intent is when you can read somebody's post in that entirety and understand what they're looking for. And so I think that is a signal that indicates actual buying intent, the entire holistic content of what someone's posting. Because if someone's posted a 700 character post on LinkedIn, for example, you can really start to see, especially if it's not AI generated, what they're looking for and looking to achieve. Whether it's, hey, I'm looking to expand into an international market in Dubai. Are there any regional players that can help me in terms of partnership? People do talk about this stuff online. And if you can analyze the entirety of that post, which is much harder to do than just a keyword or role change, you can actually get real intent. The caveat being, if you are getting real intent, you're probably not getting as much volume. So you need to have some sort of action system in place where you can make sure to prioritize the highest intent leads and then still have the sort of classic signals in place to action on for the volume as you're scaling.
What's a good daily routine for founders using Intently to generate leads consistently? Like we saw how quickly it did it earlier, but what would you say is a daily routine?
Yeah, good question. We definitely want Intently to be very, very nominal in terms of how much time you're spending on the platform, but you're getting still a ton of value. I would say one of the best routines for the first week as you're getting started is run like one signal search per day. Just hop into the platform, run a search on your signal, and see the results, engage with a couple posts, then hop off so you don't get burnt out. But then once you find 3, 4, 5 signals where you're like, you know what, those posts that it's surfacing, the people that it's helping me engage with, are actually really, really powerful, really compelling, potentially really great leads for me. You can start to turn on monitoring of those signals. And once monitoring is on, it'll start running those searches for you automatically. You specify to us, I'm willing to spend XYZ credits a month for you to monitor this lead. It'll just parse it out and prorate it basically daily, running those searches. And from there, every time you log in, instead of having to manually run a search, the leads will already be populated for you to engage with. And so you can see kind of the gradual progression of first week, just run a couple signals, then turn monitoring on. Second week, when you have monitoring on, those leads will be auto-populated. You can come in, start to engage with your leads and customers right away instead of having to run searches. And then from there, you can look at setting up automations and connectors via API to other tools.
That's great. What metrics should a startup track early to know if their go-to-market strategy is working? It's great we're doing one search a day, but at what point do we say, I'm not generating the leads, I'm not getting the results I want in my strategy, I need to change it?
Yeah, that's a good one. Definitely conversions is one of the best metrics that we try to track. Like what percentage of these leads generating are becoming customers post outreach. We also try to track things like reply rates on our email sequences, um, statistics around the average contract value of these leads, because we're definitely trying to increase that over time by providing more value to our customers. Um, Definitely the return on your invested capital in these tools. Like if you spend $500 on Intently, are you making more than $500 a month via closing customers? That'll really help you make sure you're not burning through cash investing in a bunch of tools that are unnecessary. I think you should track that for every tool that you use and go to market because it's one of the clearest ROI plays. If I spend $500 here, after a month or 2 months, am I making more or not? Those are some metrics that I would say up front. There's probably definitely more out there. But yeah, those are some that I would say are good to track early on. Conversions, close rates, reply rates to email sequences, average customer value, contract value. Yeah.
Those are all good. How can a startup sales team make the most out of the Intently AI data that they get?
Yeah. So if you're a sales team and you have a set territory where it's either regional or a specific set of 100 companies, Intently can actually help you track just that, just company posts from the companies that you serve or posts in the region like we did for Toronto Starts, people in that region. So you can kind of start there in terms of narrowing scope a little bit. And then in terms of making the most out of Intently data, there's a couple different ways. One is the post data where you can start to go engage with the person on the actual social platform, send them a like on their post, comment, or a DM. Or you can extract data about that person and send them an email campaign. We tend to do both because we find it's really, really effective for someone to recognize your name from a notification on LinkedIn before you send them an email. That could be really effective in terms of helping you get responses and engagement. But I would say definitely having like a process for actioning the leads that come in is key. Because if leads are there, and nothing's being done with them, obviously it's not that useful to you. So having a flow, one of the things that one of our customers does right now is they assign each signal or set of like 2 to 3 signals to a person. So anytime somebody comes in that matches signal 1, Keshav goes and takes an action on it. And anytime signal 2 comes in, Craig goes and takes an action on it. That way you have a very clear track of who's doing what and who's responsible.
So I'm going to put you on the spot. If people don't know, you didn't see the questions before we got started. So you're working on the fly here. So here's what's an example of a scrappy go-to-market win you've seen a small team pull off using Intently?
Yeah, this is a good one. I won't mention their brand just because I'm not sure if they want us to, but there was a development company, a company that does APIs for meeting recordings. So you can probably figure out who they are from that. I can say their name? Okay, my founder is here too. So it's a company called Recall AI. They came to us and they wanted to basically like appear everywhere in context to their industry. They wanted to be the first people to comment on posts related to meeting recordings and APIs. They wanted to scrape data about competitor posts, comment and engage with people on those posts as well. And when they came to us after the first month of using Intently, they were like, okay, we see the value. They committed to 6 months using the platform. And from there, we can't claim like direct responsibility necessarily, but since using Intently, they've raised an 8-figure Series B. They've grown like crazy, and they've definitely been winning in the comment marketing space, meaning every time somebody posts about something relevant in their industry, they're the first ones to show up. So it's been really, really effective in terms of getting scrappy. I lost your mic, Craig.
Indeed. Sorry. That's very positive social impact and social feedback on all those platforms as well. So it's a great signal to catch. You mentioned, okay, we're getting these signals from Intently. We're going to jump on and be a comment to get the people's attention, talk about our product, answer a question, whatever. How do you balance manual outreach with automation when starting out?
This one's interesting. I definitely did a lot of manual my first couple weeks at Intently. Like I sat 1 or 2 days messaging probably like 1,000 people on LinkedIn and emails just in my network that I knew. I actually still see value to that. That might be a controversial topic with some people in the go-to-market space, like, no, I'll automate first, have that mindset. I see a ton of value in making personalized messages to the people you know in your network, asking for referrals, asking for their feedback. As you're getting started, like you want all the help you can get, and you don't necessarily, like, everyone's different. I personally didn't really want to like hard sell my network. So I asked to most people in my network, hey, I'm starting this new project. Would you be open to going and liking our LinkedIn page? Just a great way to get people following, get some interests. And then a couple people from that checked out our LinkedIn page and were like, hey, actually, I could really use this. And so we got some demos booked that way. I think that's a really, really effective way to start. Just get the motion of the outreach underway, again, in terms of the manual efforts. But very, very quickly, you should start to move from manual to automation, because you'll notice that as soon as you get interest, you start booking demos, you start getting more into the build side, the prospecting wheel, if it's manual, is gonna fall off. It just happens. Like everyone who's ever done it knows that if you're prospecting manually, once you start to get busy, clients start to respond, the prospecting
You stop
wheel goes out the window
prospecting because you're busy. Yeah,
Exactly.
That's what happens.
Exactly. So it's really, really important to start at least building automation around messages that you know resonate, such as like if you get a signal from Intently where somebody is looking for your product or service or posting about the industry, you can then set up kind of that automated sequence where it's like, hey, I saw your post, would love to talk more, and kind of build your messaging for your own industry that way. That way, like even if you slow down on manual outreach to your highest intent leads or your account-based marketing or sales, you still have the recurring flywheel and pipeline of prospecting going.
So you've talked about you even showed us how real time the signals are. Within a few days, within a few minutes, you've got intent signals from the last few days ready for me to go and respond to. So they're fairly real time. And you can answer that part of it if you want. But the other part is, how do you automate outreach without sounding like a bot? Like, based on what you has said, I would manually go on and do as much of it as possible early on, because you want to know the experience, you want to know what works, what doesn't, you want to build that, I don't know, a database of 1,000 responses. Because once you have that, that's something you could potentially take an intelligent AI and say, all right, here are out of this 1,000, I got X number of responses. So these ones are the ones that are getting statistics. So these ones aren't working. Can you start writing a style guide, start writing rules, and build some prompts around how I write to start building that automation outreach? Or how would you approach that?
Yeah, that's a really good question too. You're full of good questions today, Craig. I feel like I'm going to be saying that a lot. So first part, intently is as real time as you specify. We can search for posts within the past 6 months or the past week or day. And so again, all specified, and allow you as the user have full control in terms of how you filter the timing. And once you turn monitoring on, it again will search leads 24/7 constantly, so as real time as it gets. In terms of the automating outreach without sounding like a bot, this is where there's a couple things. There's definitely the ability intently to import writing rules for style guides on a platform. For example, if you want intently to help you generate comments that you then go post, we don't post on your behalf, but we can help you with generating ideas for comments and whatnot. You could say, hey, for LinkedIn, I want to use my style guide for my company that I paste into writing rules, and I want to have a professional tone, ask a question. These are all things that are pretty out of the box in most signal-based or prospecting go-to-market based tools. I would say where we differentiate is because the signal is based on the content of people's posts, you can build messaging around the signal that is very, very optimized if the signal is optimized to make you not sound like a bot, but still automate some of the outreach, because it's not really a bot voice. What I mean by that, if you set up a signal where, hey, I want to find scientists who are posting about rocket technology and specifically about fuel to weight ratio and their studies and findings in the past 10 years in rocket science, Intently is only going to surface posts that match that description, right? Rocket scientists posting about the tech, posting about fuel to weight ratio in the past 10 years. And based on that, if you know that every single post surfaced in Intently is going to be very similar in terms of the content, you can then develop an email sequence or an outreach sequence that doesn't sound like a bot, because it says, hey, I saw your post about rocket science. I would love to learn more from you about fuel to weight ratios. Here's what I'm working on. Can we set up time to chat? And if you were a rocket scientist and you posted about it and somebody reached out to you that way, where they cited your post and they showed genuine interest, because again, you're kind of narrowing the results field of what you're actually responding to via Intently, it makes you sound a lot more human and interested as opposed to a bot. And then when you do get follow-ups, you have context. You're not reaching out cold out of the blue, having to ask the same old discovery questions about, tell me more about your business and what do you do? Like, you already know. You have the post context, you know who they are, and you can come into that conversation already run in, providing a ton of value.
So you talked about Intently not necessarily posting on your behalf, but that might happen when tools like Zapier or N8N or HubSpot come into play, when we say, okay, we have all these signals, we're getting all this information from Intently. I can now take that in and plug it into a workflow that will start emailing, that will comment, start following them on whatever social platform, and comment on the relative things on a regular basis without even needing more intense signals to warm them up, or even, message them in any sort of way. And that's when, you start going outside of that. So how does Intently integrate with tools like N8N and Zapier or HubSpot?
Yeah, great question. I can actually show you. So we have a webhook, and that's kind of our primary integration avenue. Pop up my screen share here. So in the project settings, under notifications, you'll have this webhook feature. And basically what you can do is add an endpoint that, if for us, for example, we have this going to, like, you can go to N8N, or we have our clay tables here, right? So you can specify either all leads or leads that match a specific signal, and then say, okay, so for every Toronto startup launch announcement lead, I want it to go into our N8N cloud, and from N8N, then the sequence of actions kicks off. You don't have to specify any of that here. This is just that initial connector to get the data from Intently where you want it to go. So this is the webhook URL that makes that happen.
And so you can have as many of those as you want?
Correct. Yeah. So you can have one for each signal. So if I had, like, I can show you ours. In the project settings, like, I have webhooks for one signal here that goes to clay, this signal that goes to a different clay table, this one goes to a different clay table. So these are kind of all auto-populating and going into my different lead flows for from Intently.
Yeah, and this is great because, just as an example, because sometimes, people hear this at a high level and they don't necessarily know how to apply this to their business. So if you're in the consulting business and your lead, you may have different signals about different things. For example, let's use Toronto Starts as an example, we do our Flowgrammer business automation. I do coaching. We run networking events. So I may be responding for different things. So if I have a signal that says, hey, people are looking for other founders, looking to connect, looking to grow their network, I'm going to respond to, hey, why don't you come to our networking events and meet some people? And that would kick off a specific workflow that would respond accordingly and have all the information about that specific event. And whereas maybe a coaching thing would kick off a workflow that would have different types of coaching packages and the things that go on. And, and if you're in the technology space, this is kind of the thing. I can tailor, you get the technology package versus the food and agriculture package so all of a sudden you can really narrow down all those things that are happening based on, and which workflows or external systems you're calling based on the signal.
Exactly. And that's a new form of leverage now. Once you've created that sequence end to end, it's ready. And then as soon as you put somebody else into the flow, they'll get the same sequence of messages that everybody else who matches that signal does. So it's a kind of a one-time investment of time to create those flows, but then it compounds theoretically until you stop it.
I know my mind is starting to go about the types of workflows I would want to build for some of my clients, and the types of workflows I want to build for some of some of the businesses I already mentioned. What kind of workflows are you seeing people building on top of Intently right now?
Yeah, it's pretty all over the place. I won't lie. Our users are getting really creative. The standard and the most common is signal where lead comes in based on XYZ, whatever the signal is that you specify, to outreach. That's kind of the most common that people are developing, so that it's a system of outreach that's pretty automated, with the goal in mind that's constantly running so that you're getting demos booked with your ICP every day or every week. We've seen, and we've actually experimented with a couple interesting workflows that help you get better data about who to reach out to at a company that has good indications. So what I mean by that is we started tracking signals around growth, like people either hiring, go to market, and growth teams, or announcing like new funding, for example. And oftentimes we notice that, like, the company page that posted isn't a person, or the founder who posted may not be our direct ICP at that moment. Like, we want to start talking to their go-to-market teams before we get in front of the founder. So what we built an automated workflow that takes the post data and then gets the company data, takes that data into Clay, and finds people at that company who meet our ICP, go-to-market, VP sales, VP marketing, or if it's early enough, CEO and founder. and from there gets the data on who the right people at that company are. But remember, we still know that company is expressing signals of buying intent. We just don't know the right people. So we automated that research process so that we get the right people data, and then we can ping them in terms of an automated fashion. So it's really, really compelling. We were actually doing this earlier this week, and we were blown away. Like, the data that we're getting is remarkably powerful.
Yeah, that sounds really compelling. And, there's off the top of my head, I could see outsmarting competition so many other ways. I'm thinking right now, it's the end of the year. People have to spend all their budget, or it disappears, and or they get less next year and stuff. And you say, okay, why don't we scrape LinkedIn and Indeed for signals of people hiring in the service area that I provide services to, then find the people in those companies that actually use the services, the managers, the whatever, not necessarily the HR people, reach out to them and say, hey, you can hire me now, retain me for services next year in this area, in this thing, and that stuff, if you need to, because you're having tried to help me fill in the gaps, that kind of stuff, and really skirt some people and get at a market that you might not have been able to get at before. So that's just one example I thought of while you were talking, and it sounds like there's some really cool ideas we could put together here.
Absolutely. There's a lot of creativity. And if you're a go-to-market engineer or you're familiar with workflows, we'd love to work with you. We'd love to see what creative things you can come up with Intently as the source.
Yeah, I love working with these tools, and we have a whole community full of builders that are working with all sorts of different tools. So this is to add Intently to their tool belt would be great. And this is an interesting, what's the fastest zero to working pipeline setup you've seen using Intently?
We have had some crazy results. We had a client in their first month reach out to us and say they basically experienced a pipeline growth. I don't know if it was from zero, so don't quote me on that, but they experienced like a $5 million pipeline growth because they were selling services in the cloud space that super valuable and super high per customer contract, high 6, low 7 figures. And so they found 4 or 5 deals on Intently that they started working within that first month and qualified it at $5+ million pipeline for their organization. That was one of the highest or higher that we've seen. But not uncommon in terms of how quickly people are building pipeline and engaging with folks on Intently. Usually within the first month, if it's useful for you or not, and you're already starting to engage with conversations with your ICP.
What are some of the underrated signals or filters in Intently that advanced users should be using?
Good. Oh man, I'm going to keep saying good question. After the direct buying signals around something like, hey, I want to find people who are looking for a startup community like Toronto Starts, I would say the indirect signals are really, really powerful for engaging in the comments and the likes. So I use a signal around active marketing and go-to-market discussions. It's not really buying intent, but I told Intently, hey, surface posts where the author is talking about marketing trends or marketing tech, go-to-market, and specifically inviting others to engage in the comments. And then what that usually surfaces is LinkedIn posts where the authors posted something, and then their last sentence is, what are your thoughts? Or what's your marketing stack? Or what are you doing in the industry? And because of that invitation to engage, I never feel like I'm spamming. I go comment, I go like, I go engage with other comments, add people, connect, because they asked for it. And it always results in positive conversation. So that's definitely one of the underrated signals. If someone's inviting you to chat, take them up on it.
So this is the last question. Where do people go to find out more about you and Intently AI?
Yeah, thanks, Craig. So our website's live, intently.ai. You can input your website and get to searching signals pretty much right away. It'll take a couple minutes, just kind of like we did on the demo. You can also reach out to me, Keshav Ummat, on LinkedIn, or keshav@intently.ai. Feel free to book a demo with me, get your questions answered directly. We're still small and scrappy in terms of our team size. Even though we're growing pretty quickly on the customer side, we're taking a ton of ownership right now and trying to get as all hands on deck in terms of customer onboarding. So happy to help any way I can.
And I said that was the last question, but I think we would do a disservice if I didn't ask, what's the pricing model like?
Yeah, great question. So our base plan starts at $150 a month, $149 a month. And that gets you access to the platform with 4,000 credits and up to 20 signals. Again, with credits, it's all on you as the user to specify how many credits you use. So like the 4,000, you could run that with only 10 searches and just run deep searches, or you could run 20, 30 searches and kind of run narrower searches. So the credit budget is up to you to play around with, but that's the base plan. From there, if you want access to some of the more advanced features like the webhook, API access, unlimited signals, and a lot more credits, it goes up to $299 a month, and then up further from there just as you use more credits.
So it sounds like we should start, and generally, depending on who you are, start at the 4,000 credit and get the intense, the signals coming in. And as you start being successful, you're going to want more and more. And that's when you start upgrading to get more signals, more intent, more searches.
Correct. If you're just getting started, solopreneur, entrepreneur, early stages, definitely doing that process that Craig just mentioned, the starter plan, 4,000 credits, run a couple signals and searches and see even if the platform is like right for you and you're getting good leads before upgrading. We definitely recommend that for all our users and that stage. But if you're a little bit more of a mature company, you kind of already have those outbound flows and you know, hey, I've got MailChimp or Instantly already set up and I kind of just want to integrate more leads and you want the API access, you've got the technical talent. We've seen users kind of go straight to our scale and growth plans to connect that data. And
you need the scale and growth plans to access the API?
Correct.
Fantastic. That's good to know. And yeah, I could see jump into that, especially like, you know, we're in the startup industry. There's the one or two, three people being scrappy, and then there's the 5 to 20 people. We've just raised 2 million and we're in growth stage, and we got to attack every signal we can possibly get. Exactly. And they would, yeah. So we want to make sure that understand that there's opportunity for all those companies in this game, and it sounds like you're uncovering signals that aren't necessarily readily available in other tools.
Correct.
So it's like if you go into Apollo and do a search, you're getting the same leads as everyone else doing a search in Apollo, as an example, rather than saying we're finding real-time intent signals out on where people are asking on this within a day, within an hour, within a few minutes and responding. Those are hotter than the other ones, which everyone else is spamming. And it's always good to strike while the iron's hot. You know, when you're at an event and someone likes working with you, book that follow-up meeting, do it then. Don't try and do it via email later when 24, 48 hours, several days between you and the time when they're passionate about doing this thing, because now they're passionate about something else.
Yeah, it's a great point, Craig. And like, I'm not the first to coin this. I think this actually came from Clay, and we use Clay, so we're a big fan of Clay. But there's this kind of concept going around. If you're familiar with alpha in investing, it's like measuring an investment's performance or investment fund's performance against benchmark. That's the alpha. There's this concept now of like go-to-market alpha. Like if you are the first in your industry to get the best signals, to set up tools like Intently and tools like Clay and action those signals, you are getting alpha on an already existing market versus your benchmark and peers. So really, really powerful right now. And it probably won't last forever. I mean, honestly, the alpha in some industries is going to go down very quickly as adoption hits in those industries. So I think we're on like a 24, 36 month timeline to take advantage of tools like this to be at a competitive edge as opposed to just competitive standard, if you will.
Yeah, and I guess anybody listening, I ask yourself, is the $150 a month worth getting access to all those hot leads that people are actively looking for your product or service, and being able to connect with them, potentially book stuff. You know, I would question that if it's not worth that $150, then you're probably in the wrong business selling the wrong products, because, you know, one sale should pay for that monthly thing, and off you go, right? And you're getting signals that other people aren't. I think this is a terrific tool, and people would be foolish not to attack this market right now. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today. Oh, hey, how are you?
That's Anish, our founder. Go look him up, Anish at intently.ai too. He's from Toronto.
Oh, that's fantastic. I really appreciate
and he went to the University of Waterloo.
Now you're talking. Every U of T, U of W and Toronto.
Yep.
That's definitely our audience down here, or up here, I guess. So thank you very much for taking the time today and telling us all about your product and what people can be doing to build their go-to-market strategies, and what types of signals people should be looking for. It's been very valuable.
Thanks, Craig. Appreciate you. Bye, everyone at Toronto Starts.